Truth Espresso, episode 359.
In a world gone bonkers.
It is not, generally speaking, unruly, but fires have been started and...
Where the culture is a dumpster fire.
We're coming for your children.
And churches have lost their way.
I am really uncomfortable with the story of the crucifixion.
It's time to wake up with Truth Espresso.
Truth Espresso.
Your weekly shot of truth. And now your host, Daniel Minnick.
Well, hey there, friends, family, foes, and of course, lurkers alike. This is your host for Truth Espresso, Daniel Minnick, coming at you with an unusual little episode this time. I'm not going to say the word exciting as I often do, because I don't think that the topic matter for this is very exciting. I just thought I'd break with my series going through the Book of Mormon to cover, of course, recent events that, you've probably seen coverage of everywhere. But I thought I would add my 2 cents a bit to this tragedy. You probably already know that on Wednesday, September 10th, 2025, while Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk was at a college event in Utah, as far as we know, it could have just been a lone young gunman. There could have been others involved, but we don't know a whole lot about that at the time of this recording. But as Charlie Kirk was answering a question from someone who comes from the left on it, the question had to do with transgender violence, or violence coming from people who identify as transgender, that there are more shootings from them than there are from the alleged right. Then as he gave his answer there, he ended up getting shot in the neck. And it was not too long after that he succumbed to the wound. And I found out about that. I don't know where you were when you found out about it, but I was about to take my usual lunch break walk at work when I saw a news notification on my phone. I was getting my sneakers on. I was going to take a walk, and I happened to see this, so it's kind of shocked me. And there's another reason that it shocked me, not just because I knew who Charlie Kirk was, and I have actually listened to quite a few of his episodes, watched some clips on YouTube, but he was actually scheduled to show up and give a speech at an event that I and my family were scheduled to attend the next day. And I had made work arrangements for this. We registered weeks in advance to go see Charlie Kirk at an event, and we were kind of excited about that because I had never seen him. None of us in our family had ever seen him in person, and we knew what he was like. We listened to some things. We saw some YouTube clips, especially when he would engage young people on college campuses. It was kind of like, the way Steven Crowder used to do things. He'd set up a table and have a sign that says, "Change my mind." And so he would come with a position and want college students to engage with him and try to disprove him. Well, Charlie Kirk, kind of like that, but was open to talking about all kinds of issues. So anything that a college student would want to ask a question about, or ask for his opinion about, or make their own opinions and see if he would argue against them, would come up to the microphone and he would be willing to talk about it kindly but succinctly and firmly. And it seems that there are some people in our society who do not like open dialogue. They do not like disagreement with some of their political positions, because we've heard the term speech is violence. And so there are people who do not like the First Amendment to the Constitution, even if they would affirm it. But to them, free speech only means free speech for some people, because if you say the wrong things, the things that they disagree with, they consider it incitement. They consider it, say, if you disagree, that people who claim that they're a different gender than they really are biologically, that that's somehow a genocide because you're allegedly denying their existence. So therefore, they could use the excuse that your speech is actual, literal genocide. You're killing people, you're erasing them. And so that's the excuse that some people have to claim that if you don't affirm their beliefs, that's just as bad, if not even worse, than violence. But okay, so on Wednesday, September 10th, I saw the notification, the first news item that I looked at on my phone that had the notification. I looked at it and it had a video clip and it said that Charlie Kirk was shot. And of course, I'm thinking, yeah, kind of probably in the way Trump was shot. I was expecting to see a clip of a shot fired nearby, maybe grazing him, and then he's concerned, and then security are taking care of it, and then he'll go to the hospital and be checked out for his wounds, and like Trump, he'll be back out for business the next day, and so on. So when I saw the clip, I was not prepared for what I was going to see. I saw the video clip of him getting shot in the neck, and he grabs his neck and reacts, and he falls back in his chair. So when I saw that, I'm like, oh, he really was shot, as in shot, as in this is really, really bad, not just a scare, not just a little wound. And so I was not ready to see that. And I would tell you that if you haven't seen footage of Charlie Kirk getting shot, I would recommend you not watch it. Because I will tell you that it really affected me that day, the next day, and, I'm still reeling from some of the effects of it. It's kind of imagery footage that kind of replays in my head, and it's not enjoyable to keep recalling that because of the shock of it. And to me, like, as I've seen many clips of Charlie Kirk speaking confidently, it seems like he's someone who he's going to win every battle that he's in. And to see him speaking confidently and then in one instant, he's just taken down and he's lifeless. And, that's going to be the end of him. I was not prepared for that. And then after that, even when we weren't even sure whether he was going to live or die, when he went to the hospital, the news coverage of it was insane, to say the least. I don't know if I want to give some of these people the dignity of mentioning their names, but yeah, one guy suggested that maybe it was a supporter firing off a gun in celebration. Why did he say that? Because, of course, the legacy media wants to try to presuppose, at least for their watchers, their viewers, their listeners, presuppose that violence does not come from their ideological kin. Like, it must come from someone on the right, even if it's against a right-leaning celebrity or person, because violence must only come from the people they don't like. And of course, if it involves a gun, they want to presuppose it's the people who advocate for owning guns, gun rights, the Second Amendment proponents. And so, of course, the shooter just has to be like that. But of course, it just rings hollow. It doesn't make sense. What audacity there just to try to presuppose. And then, you had accusations of like, well, he kind of had it coming. If you say things long enough over years, they fester, you say hateful things, meaning things I don't like, then that's going to result in something tragic like this happening. So without saying the direct words, anyone hearing what was said comes to the conclusion of, well, he got what was coming to him, or he brought it upon himself. And that's just plain ludicrous. Everyone who has political opinions and wants to make them known are going to do that. And Charlie Kirk was someone who wanted dialogue. That was his career. He realized that there was a lack of communication because the legacy media doesn't promote communication. to me, it's clear that they promote indoctrination. They don't want a fruitful dialogue. They want to characterize or mischaracterize. They want to form an opinion in their viewers outside of an opinion they get from actually engaging in conversation with the other side. They foster division because leftist ideology, to me, it seems, that's what everything's all about. It's divide and conquer. It's set up two different classes of people. You have the oppressed and the oppressor. You have the people who need the rights and the people who are keeping the rights from them. You have the minorities and you have the elites. And of course, we know there are plenty of elites on the left side, but as long as you support leftist cultural ideas, then you're not one of the evil elites. You're one of the donors and so on. But Charlie Kirk's career was all about bridging the gap of communication, engaging the other side, set up a tent, set up a microphone, and say, you can come up to me and you can ask me anything and we can have an unfettered dialogue because I want you to understand my position. If you have questions, you can ask me to clarify. I'll give my response and I'll ask you questions. And if you need some clarification, I'm an open book. You may not like my answer, but at least you will understand what I believe, not what you're told what I believe, but what I actually believe and why I believe it, and explained from answering questions as much as I can possibly do. So, yes, he strongly believed. In his very short life there, he passed away at age 31. He was married for only 4 years. He has 2 young children. He has a young wife who's now a widow who has to take care of kids without her husband and their father. And it seems that there's some people who don't even think about that. All they see are political enemies. And I think it's the left that their whole entire life is all about politics. For them, everything is politics. You can't go to work, eat, drink, sleep, talk, do anything that isn't defined politically. And of course, if you're a political enemy, then nothing else matters. You're a threat to democracy. You're a threat to their existence as how they see themselves, how they identify. And so therefore, it's a morally upright thing to make sure they're no longer a threat. And of course, Charlie Kirk was never someone who promoted violence. He was never someone who even, he'd have some firm words for people, but he loved people and he wanted to talk with them. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to make sure that there was an understanding, and that's how he was also a great unifier, because even on what we might consider the right, there's a lot of disagreement there, but he was someone who was friends even with people who didn't agree with each other, but they're both friends of Charlie Kirk. And so, he was a great unifier, and not necessarily by compromise. He was definitely a pragmatist. And sometimes people would have a problem with that, but he was someone who would try to find the good that both factions within the same movement would agree on, and he would be able to emphasize that. He wanted to unify people on his side enough to be able to, say, win elections, and plenty of people will credit him and Turning Point USA with being one of the strongest factors in the results of last year's election, in getting Trump elected and other people on the slate elected there too. And of course, that's probably why there are some people who consider him a political threat, even though he never held political office. It's just as bad because of his indirect influence. He would arrange events that would host all kinds of people that you'd normally think would not share a stage. There would be Fox News commentators, people from the Daily Wire, people from The Blaze, independent journalists, as long as they had some form of American patriotism. There would be Christians and non-Christians. Yeah, I know. Sometimes we can criticize that, but his goal wasn't that I could see to compromise things. It would be find the truth that we all hold to and use that to our advantage. But let me mention that, yes, when I saw that video of him being shot in the neck, it was traumatizing for me. And then to add insult to injury, when I would see the crazy, spiteful commentary on mainstream news outlets, when I'd look at something on X or on Facebook and see comments there that were just plain ghoulish and heartless. It was like a gut punch. I felt like I was being rained on, like acid rain. It was just pouring on me, trying to process a tragic image of someone getting shot, someone that I was supposed to see the very next day, maybe even get a chance to meet. And then have like untold number of people that despised him so much that they were cheering and celebrating his demise, his physical demise in this life, knowing that there's millions of fans and followers who are going to be incredibly upset about it. And also the fact that he has personal friends and a wife and children who now have to be without a husband and father, and yet these ghouls just didn't care. They're happy that their opponent is gone. It's kind of like a sports game where you have sports fanatics for their team cheering on their team so much that almost like they don't care if someone gets away with cheating as long as their team wins. We need to win at any cost, but of course, taken up to the extreme level of life and death. It's very, very disheartening to see just how incredibly evil and how many of them are out there. Like, if there's this many comments that could care less. I saw someone say, and I don't care that he has a family, because, Charlie Kirk was such an evil fascist, then that woman should have known better than to marry him. And so, of course, if you dare, have kids and stuff like that, well, you've made your bed and, you deserve to have that happen because, we need to take him out so that the world could be a better place. Yeah. And I'm glad I don't have an account on Blue Sky. Of course, if I did, I would probably last for about 5 minutes. But yeah, people showed on X screenshots of basically a huge montage of absolutely satanic reveling and celebration in the death of Charlie Kirk. Like, you'd think that a dictator of a country just got taken out and now the people are free. For what? Saying words? For what? Opening lines of communication? Well, as you might have heard, as you might have read, it was quick before there's one guy that they thought might have been involved and then they released him. And then they caught another guy that they thought might have been responsible and then they released him. And then the manhunt went on for, another full day or more until the FBI finally pieced together enough evidence. And the young man's father ended up cooperating with the authorities and turning him in. And, I don't know all of the details surrounding that, but I applaud the father for doing the right thing. As much as you might want to love your child, your love for your child cannot trump justice. And, if someone has assassinated someone, justice must win. And so thank you, Dad, for turning him in for whatever reason. I don't know how it all fell down. And of course, thank all the law enforcement, FBI, and even maybe family and friends of the killer who were involved in putting all the pieces of the puzzle together and bringing him to justice. And I pray that the true and right justice of God will happen in this situation. And now I want to say to those who celebrate the assassination, the unjust assassination of someone who just wanted to talk, this unjust, evil, violent act will not accomplish what you hope that it accomplished. taking out a real dictator might, in some way, if done appropriately according to biblical principles, free a nation. But if you're taking out someone who's good because of your narcissism, you know that this will not result in just one fewer opponent. This will only embolden people who were followers of Charlie Kirk, people who were like-minded, to become bolder and to desire to take his place, to do things similar that he has done. And so, in the place of Charlie Kirk will come 10 more Charlie Kirks. I hope, nay, 100, nay, 1,000, nay, millions of Charlie Kirks who are bold to fight, and by fight I don't mean with weapons, I mean with words, I mean with open dialogue, I mean people who believe the gospel of Jesus Christ and biblical principles by which a nation should be run, who are willing to chat about it. Yes, the pen is mightier than the sword. And in this case, words of dialogue on college campuses are mightier than rifle rounds. And so those of you who like the fact that Charlie Kirk was taken out, this is going to create many, many more Charlie Kirks. And I pray to God that this will spark a revival in this nation in ways that no one had any idea would come from this, that it will spark a great awakening, much like the first great awakening in this country, where people will now be bolder to preach the gospel with conviction and without fear of reprisal. And I'm sure that the other side will feel a little more emboldened, perhaps by fear of trying to take out more and feeling that threatening people to stay silent will work. But I say it will not work. There will be more and greater dialogue. There will be more and greater preaching the gospel. There will be more and greater spreading the truth. And I don't know what my humble little podcast, Truth Espresso, how it will be involved in all of that, but I will keep plugging along and speaking truth. And so I want to say, rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. Thank you for everything you've done. We all miss you, but we thank you for emboldening us. And I will say, we are Charlie Kirk.
And I can tell you I'm super blessed. I have the best wife in the world. We have an amazing life. Building a family is the coolest thing ever. And my prayer for all of you is that you one day can do that.
Half of this audience, if you get a job, will get a job that doesn't require a college degree. 41% of kids that enter college will not graduate. And the vast majority of kids, 60 to 70% that go to college, I believe study things that are completely worthless, meaningless, and don't enrich society at all. And the American way of life is very simple. I want to be able to get married, buy a home, have kids, allow them to ride their bike till the sun goes down, send them to a good school, have a low-crime neighborhood, not to have my kid be taught the lesbian, gay, transgender garbage in their school. You have an opportunity. The gospel in 4 words is Jesus took my place. 3 words is him for me. 2 words is substitutionary atonement, and 1 word is grace. Grace you cannot earn. Grace you do not pay for.
You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country and this world. You have no idea. No one will ever forget my husband's name, and I will make sure of it.